Cool beans. Welcome to the midweek fundamental and technical analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Not sure if Corman's going to be joining us tonight with the fundamental analysis, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the midweek technical analysis. So, it'll be brief. I just want to look back over the pre-week analysis that I gave out and go back over Monday night's call and see where I think price is going to deliver to for the rest of the week. Right. So looking back over the pre-week analysis, I told you guys Sunday afternoon that I wanted to see the dollar start out the week bullish. Well, weekly bias was bullish for the dollar. And I wanted to see us run last week's buy side liquidity. Um, we got that. We break this down to the daily, right? Looking back, Monday we opened up here Monday. Um, I'm sorry. Let me look at. Let's go to the Telegram group. Um, so we can have a reference. So I stated that incorrectly. The weekly bias for Dixie was bearish. And I said, looking at the daily time frame, I'm expecting price to pull back to the weekly discount array of 103.16 and 102.962. We opened up here Monday, pulling down towards those levels. And then let's go down to the hour time frame. Let's go to Monday night. Monday night we was here, right? And at that time we was still waiting for that first level of 103.16 to get breached, right? And we got that going into London markets. We got that breach, and then we seen price uh reverse off of that first PD array level and then give us that run up to run last week's buy side liquidity. We extended a little higher to fill in this imbalance to the upside here. And we came into this small little imbalance right here. You put a level on that imbalance right here, this CB, right? You put a level there, extend that out. We see price ran up into that. And once price ran that, you see price ran away from that level, coming back down to run this sell side liquidity here and close the day inside of this imbalance today. So technically, we got the move that we was looking for in the beginning of the week, or the move that I was looking for in the beginning of the week. I wanted to see price pull back down to this discount array from last week's weekly range, going back to the weekly time frame, and we got that. So I sent out a tweet. I sent out a tweet today explaining how I analyze the markets every week. And you guys already know this. You were the first to know. I've gone over marking your weekly ranges and marking your daily ranges and so forth. So that's how I approach the market every week. I approach the market looking at the market from a weekly point of view or a weekly bias. And I try to um, gauge which direction the weekly candle is going to expand in. And from there, I break it down to the daily, and I mark the daily range the same exact way I mark the weekly range. And as you can see, this week I had this weekly, the previous week's range marked, right? And I expected price to pull back down um, into this PD array, this discount array of last week's range. And then some people will ask, well, how do you determine which direction the weekly candle is going to expand in? And the answer to that for me personally is I look at previous order flow and which direction the market is trending in. And if you look at Dixie, we've been trending up hard since July the 17th, right? We have 5 weeks of bullishness, right? And so I'm expecting us to, the reason I was expecting us to pull back into last week's PD array is because of all of this bullish order flow that we've been seeing over the last few months, right? And last week we had ran this buy side liquidity from July the 3rd, right? The week of July the 3rd, right? And usually when we run a higher time frame buy side or sell side liquidity, you can pretty much count on what? Retracement off of that level. So I'm looking at a lot of things when I'm determining that weekly bias, right? And so those were the things that I was looking at this week when I determined my weekly bias, right? Or which way I wanted to see the markets expand to um, when we opened up for the week, right? So bullish, the bullishness that we've seen for the last few months, the running of a weekly buy side liquidity, right? All of those were things that made me determine that, hey, I expect or I'm anticipating price to open up, pulling back down into last week's discount array because of those things, right? So I hope that makes sense. So that's how I determine that. And then I break it down to the daily, right? And we see Friday was the day that we rent that previous week's buy side liquidity. Well, we rented Thursday too, and then rented again Friday. And so this was another thing that I take into consideration too, right? Being that we ran it Friday, ran that weekly buy side liquidity Friday, right? And didn't close Thursday, sorry, and didn't close above it. Then we ran it again Friday and didn't close above it. What does that tell you? That shows you that the market is losing steam, price is losing steam, it's unwilling to break above that buy side liquidity and close above that buy side liquidity, right? So this is an indication that we could start to see some downward momentum um, off of the dollar, right? And so all of those things that I just named, the few months of bullishness, the few months of bullishness that we've had, right? Without any real, significant pullback in the running of a weekly buy side liquidity, right? The the unwillingness for price to break and close above that buy side liquidity, right? All of these are confirmations to for me to then say, okay, I'm anticipating price to open up and at least give us a pullback to last week's PD arrays, right? To at least one of last week's PD array levels, which would of course be that upper level first. And then, if we can't break back above and close above that buy side liquidity, then I would be expecting us to come back down and run that lower PD array level, right? And that appears to be what's happening now, right? Because we came down and retested that upper level, right? PD array of last week's weekly range. And we pushed back up to run last week's buy side liquidity one more time, but then we see today the market still closed below that level, right? So I'm expecting us to stay in line with my pre-week analysis, calling Dixie to be bearish for the week on the weekly bias, and I'm expecting us to run that lower PD array level, that discount level to the downside at 102.970. And if we break below there and close below there, then I'll be expecting us to run last week's sell side liquidity and run down into that weekly fair value gap. So that's what I'll be expecting out of the dollar going forward. All right, let me take you back to the weekly chart. So then we can look at our currency pairs. All right. So we already know that our currency pairs are inversely correlated with the dollar, right? So being that I was bearish the dollar opening up the week, we already know that I was bullish for currencies to open up the week. And I wanted to see price pull back up into last week's premium array levels, which was 1.9165 and 1.9362. We got that first level rant, and then price came back down into this weekly fair value gap, right? Let's break it down to the daily. We'll see Monday, price reached up for that PD array, went ahead and ran it Tuesday. We did not close above that PD array level or that daily fair value gap right here, right? Closed below it, and price came on down to run last week's sell side liquidity and came down into that weekly fair value gap. Now we closed above that weekly fair value gap today. So as I expect the dollar to continue bearish for the rest of the week, I expect currencies to continue to the upside for the rest of the week. And I expect us to run that upper premium level from last week's price range. With the pound, I told you guys that I wanted to see the pound open up and run last week's buy side liquidity. Right, that's exactly what we got. And then today, price came down and ran into last week's PD array and ran down to run last week's sell side liquidity. So it snapped off of that sell side liquidity, ran away from it aggressively quickly. And so I expect us to continue to the upside. I wouldn't mind seeing if we can get run this buy side liquidity right here and come up into this daily fair value gap. So this level. Hmm. Well, you gotta run this one first. So can't get ahead of yourself. But if price does get up here and run this buy side liquidity, I don't really see nothing stopping us from going ahead and filling in this daily fair value gap. So that's what I anticipate for the pound for the rest of the week. Looking at NZD USD, I told you guys that I wanted to see us pull up into last week's premium price, right? And we did that. Beautiful. Pulled up into it. Beautiful. So tomorrow's Thursday. We probably will get a down into the days PD array, right? If we go down to the daily time frame, right? We'll probably see price pull down into this PD array from today, right? Let me see some. Let me look at the 4 hour right here. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. That upper PD array level is right on top of a 4 hour breaker block. So yeah, that's beautiful. So for NZD USD, I can see us pulling back down to today's PD array, discount array, and then closing the week, reaching up to run this buy side liquidity. Yeah, that'll be beautiful. Yeah, that'll be beautiful. Yeah. So that's what I'm anticipating for NZD. Take it back to the weekly, and let's look at metals. All right. So for metals, I told you guys that I wanted to see us run last week's buy side liquidity and run up into this weekly fair value gap. It it outperformed my analysis by a long shot. I didn't expect us to run this high this quickly, but I mean it gave me what I wanted to see, and yeah, outperformed by a long shot. So yeah, let's see. Let me see. Hmm. Just gonna throw it on there. Just all right. Uh no, silver, she gets real violent at times. So we could see silver just go ahead and then keep expanding to the upside until she runs this buy side liquidity up there, these equal highs. That is a pool of liquidity sitting right there. Matter of fact, let me take that off like that and let me like this. Happened to my dollar sign. Oh, that ain't what I was looking for. I wanted my dollar sign. But we just gonna put big pool of liquidity right here. Um, silver could reach up and grab that. But I would like to see us pull back down to retest today's. This is silver. So silver could come all the way back down into this. This is not an inversion weekly fair value gap because we've already pushed through it in a weekly fair value gap. We already pushed through it. So now when price come back to retest it, it would be considered a an inversion fair value gap. Let me see that we retest that for an hour. What we did right there. Took off from we balanced that price range. Mm, what we did. All right, so price don't have to come back down to that. So yeah, I would like to see us continue. I would like to see us at least pull back to today's discount levels, discount raise, if we're going to continue to the upside to run this buy side liquidity and possibly reach for these equal highs and this pool of liquidity up around $26. So there you have it for silver. Go back to the weekly. For gold, I told you guys that I wanted weekly bias was bullish. I wanted to see us pull back up into last week's premium array, which was these two levels here, 1911 and 1918. Um, and then, of course, if we broke above that and close above that, I wanted to see us run last week's buy side liquidity and run into this weekly fair value gap that you see I have identified here. So that's what we got. Moving forward for the rest of the week for gold. Um, yeah, cool. I would like to see us pull back into today's PD array. If we break above the fair value gap close above it, then I'll expect us to run this high, this buy side liquidity here at 19.6. Simple as that. Oil, told you guys that I was bearish this week for oil, and I expect the oil to pull down into that shaded weekly fair value gap. And that's exactly what we got. So easy enough. Now I want to see us find support on top of this fair value gap and finally get above this uh fair value gap to the upside here and find support on top of it. So then we can start longing up to $100. Futures. ES. I told you guys that I wanted to see price pull back up into the consequent encroachment of last week's daily fair value gap. So we was here. I wanted to see us pull up into this consequent encroachment. And if we close and if we broke above it and closed above it, I wanted to see us run those daily PD array levels and run up into last week's PD array levels. So that's what we got. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You see, today we ran into last week's PD array level here, that lower premium array level right here. Tomorrow, I expect us to go ahead and reach that upper premium level. And if we break above it and close above it, then I want to see us run that last week's buy side liquidity. Let me look at the daily right. We can see a pullback down into today's premium discount array. Yeah. So let's see how that plays out for the rest of the week for ES. Uh, Dow was the only future that didn't hit its consequent encroachment as of yet. But I told you guys in the pre-week analysis Sunday that I wanted to see all future pairs reach up and hit consequent encroachment of last week's daily range. Daily fair value gap right here. Right. We came within tits of it. I mean, about 20 tits. So not far at all for E-mini Dow. And so as long as we stay above this Tuesday daily candle, I expect us to reach that consequent encroachment by the end of the week and possibly run into the upper level of that fair value gap to close the week for E-mini Dow. Now, going back to the weekly for NASDAQ, told you guys that I expected us to run that consequent encroachment. Well, no, let's keep it on the daily right here. So this was that daily fair value gap for E-mini NASDAQ. I told you guys that I wanted to see price reach up and run that consequent encroachment, and then we would see how price reacted to that. If we got a break and close above it, then of course I wanted to see us run up into the weekly premium levels from last week's price range, and that's what we got. And with the Nvidia earnings today, they killed earnings, so That's why we see this aggressive bullish candle here that ran through last week's premium levels and ran last week buy side liquidity. So I expect us to see bullishness out of E-mini Dow, and we already seen the bullishness out of ES. So but we didn't see last week's buy side liquidity rant for ES or E-mini Dow. So I expect us to see those levels rant. However, if NASDAQ does a reversal, a hard reversal from where we're currently at and starts to sell off hard, then I'll expect ES and E-mini Dow to sell off as well. So with that being said, last but not least, cryptos, Biddy, I want to I want to see us go ahead and start to fill in this imbalance, get back above 28,450 and find the support, and so we can run on up to 32,000 and on up to 40,000. Ethereum, same thing. I want to see us get back above 1821, find some support, and so we can go ahead and run on up to 2,000 and get up to 2,500. ApeCoin, $5 cost average in at $1.50. Now I'm just waiting for us to break back above 180 and 187. Find some fill in this right here, this imbalance. Find some support on top of these levels, this structure right here, right? That these levels are encasing and push on up. Fill in this imbalance, get on up to about 280. I'll be taking some profits here, and then we'll probably fall back down on top of these structures, find some support, and then our dollar cost average in some more here when we fall back down after filling in this imbalance, and then ride it on up to run this high, fill in this imbalance, and I'll take some off there. Well, I might not. I might wait till we fill in this imbalance and then find support on top of here, right? And then dollar cost average in here some more and ride it on. That's what I got for the midweek technical analysis. And this time I will stop the recording and take any questions. I appreciate you guys coming out tonight, tuning in, getting this knowledge and empowering yourselves. Let your family and friends know you love them while they still here, please. And as always, peace and love, everybody. You know